Welcome, everyone, to the third episode of the Sid Ammar Show. If you haven't already, make sure you check out the first two episodes available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. My YouTube channel is at Sid Ammar 316. Make sure you subscribe to stay updated with the latest episodes. This is also my handle on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, so make sure you follow me. Today's guest is none other than Mr. Ali Haymour. Ali, like myself, is a member of the Lebanese community in Edmonton and also has a deep interest in local politics, Canada's future, and the political trajectory of this nation. I invited Ali to join us today for a discussion on his political journey, his most recent campaign and experiences, as well as his overall outlook on what is going on today. You may know Ali if you are in Northside Edmonton and follow local politics. Ali's most recent adventure had him running as the UCP candidate to become an MLA, a member of the Legislative Assembly of Alberta, representing the Edmonton Northwest riding. He didn't end up being elected as the NDP took all the ridings in Edmonton. The UCP dominated Alberta and half of Calgary, but lost all of the Edmonton races. And this is something we are going to be getting into during this podcast. So without further ado, Ali, please go ahead and introduce yourself. I'd like you to share a little bit about your background, such as where you were born and raised, your educational background, and what is it that motivates you and to keep on going in everyday life.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sid. I thank you and your listeners for inviting me to be a guest speaker in your show. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. I'll start off by telling you, by way of background, like you said, I'm born and raised here in Edmonton, Alberta, and I've lived my entire life in Edmonton Northwest. I grew up in a family of seven. My father, God rest his soul, came to this country with a grade 6 education. He worked as a janitor for 25 years, and my mother was a housewife. She didn't work, but raising 5 kids was a job in itself, and it was probably overtime every single day. And I think you can imagine how difficult that was. Uh, we lived a humble life. We always had shelter over our heads, food on the table. We played sports, and every second year we would make it to Calgary, to Banff for a holiday. And one year we made it to Kelowna, in fact. Throughout my life, I was able to complete a Bachelor of Arts degree. I joined the military for 5 years, got married, and had 3 kids. I've been working as an Alberta sheriff with the Alberta government for the last 23 years. And when I compare my dad's time to my time, even though I had a higher education than he did, even though I made more money than he did, and even though I had less mouths to feed than he did, I feel like we're struggling more in our time than they did in their time.
I know what you mean.
And that was part of the reason why, leading to politics, that was part of the reason why I wanted to run, because I could tell you for the first time in all of Canadian history, this current generation is worse off than their parents.
And I totally agree with you on that matter. That leads me, because I wanted to ask you how you feel society has changed between when you were growing up and now. Obviously, it's worse. I mean, if we're honest about it, it's not as good as it used to be in the past. And, recently I've been feeling quite nostalgic about the past. I keep thinking about, I grew up in the 90s and I felt they were a far better time, not only for school, but for family, for relations. I mean, even politics were not as intense as they are nowadays. It just was overall a much healthier environment. How do you feel society has changed between when you were growing up and now?
Oh, there's been a drastic shift in social change in society, I'll tell you. When we were growing up, there was more of that community lifestyle.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
yeah, you never saw homeless to this extent. Back in our day, it was we used to call them the happy drunk, the person who just, I chose to live like this, just leave me alone. And even though there was alternatives and choices you could have made, and opportunities, if you wanted shelter, if you wanted housing, everything was available growing up. There was no reason why. But in today's world, it just seems that homeless problem is a really, really big problem. Panhandling on every corner. You're seeing for lease signs popping everywhere. Businesses are closing and leaving. Yeah, so it's a big difference for me. Crime is also another uh, thing that I compare the past to the present. Back in our days, it was way safer. Communities were safe. You could stand at a bus stop without the fear of getting harassed, or abused or even robbed. Uh, you used to ride your bike till 2 o'clock in the morning, not worry, walk the streets without worry. It was much safer back in my day growing up in
Wow.
Edmonton.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I tell people nowadays, do not take the bus, do not take the LRT. It's scary, man. You don't want to be on the bus or the LRT. You don't want to walk into those LRT stations. There was even a sporting event took place a few months ago, some sort of football sporting event, and they had advised the players, the families, and the friends of the players not to take Edmonton public transportation. This is a big problem because look at how much tax money. I don't know exactly how much is going into the public transportation system, but we are spending money on it and less people are using it. That's a big problem, right? To add to what you were saying, you were talking about the amount of homeless people that you see nowadays. You never used to see this, and I agree with you. I see it almost every single where I go. In your opinion, how should we be dealing with the homeless question? What is the solution?
Well, the homeless problem, it, there's so many ways we can deal with it. But what saddens me first is, this problem goes back a long time during the Mandel days. And so he was, Mayor So he was involved in that. It was councillor back then too. And they had
Okay.
a program, I think it was, if you look it up, memory serves me well, they called it the 10-year program that they wanted to eliminate homeless completely. And they got money from the federal government, provincial government, and they didn't do a good job at that, as you can see in today's world. But this problem that we have is, we can approach this in many ways. Um, First of all, there's a lot of people that are homeless that, from my experience, come from different provinces, different towns, different cities. And the easiest way, if they can't find their own place, they just want to make it home and they don't have the means to make it home. So if there could be a government assistance that says, if someone wants to go home, offer him that we can give you a one-way ticket to get to your province or to your city, and let them get to this is one way getting them off our streets and sending them back home. And
Why
I think,
why are they here from other provinces? What made them come here from the other provinces?
there's many reasons they come here, exploring, some uh, job opportunities, you know, other living opportunities, many reasons why people are here, right? But then you go down on your times, and then there's that addiction problem that we have that may cause people to go homeless. In a lot of ways, it
Mm.
is one of the problems, and we need more treatment centers. I can tell you personally, I remember, like I told you, I work as a sheriff. I brought somebody into docket court, and this gentleman needed help. Uh, the judge was scratching his head saying, "What do I do with you? You've served your time, and if I keep you in jail, you're not gonna get the help you need. And if I let you out on the streets, you're gonna hurt yourself and hurt others." Meanwhile, the prosecutor and the defense are making phone calls to treatment centers trying to get him a bed. They come back before the judge and they say, "Sorry, sir, it's a 2-year wait."
Wow.
Unacceptable. We're building drug injection sites when we really thing that we need right now is treatment centers. And
Wow.
yeah, you know what? One good approach is that we do have resources in place, and shelters are there. But the problem is shelters have rules. You know, You gotta go to bed at a certain time, lights out at 11 o'clock. You can't smoke, you can't drink. That's you're supposed to go to bed, wake up in the morning, go try to find a job. It's only a temporary thing, right? But people don't like to follow those rules and they prefer to stay on the streets. So, if our
And
police,
you have a unique perspective because, as you mentioned, you're an Alberta sheriff, right? So, do you see this? I assume in your everyday work. I assume you're seeing this when you're out there working, right?
well, if we're not seeing it, we're hearing of it. So
Yeah.
we hear about, we see what's going on. And I drive right by it every day going to work, tent city everywhere on every corner and all the parts of the city. It's not just one part of the city. It's in a lot of parts of the city,
Yeah.
north, west, they're everywhere.
They're even showing
Homeless
up in industrial areas. One in the industrial area that I work in, and I'm shocked. I'm starting to see people put up tents. I've never
already
seen
there.
that before.
If you look at the bus shelters, I mean, they're using that as shelter. They're using the grocery carts as a closet where they have their clothing and stuff like that, and they're on their streets,
Yeah.
like, and they're using the garbage can to find food. We have problems,
Do we have
and
statistics?
I'll tell you with all honesty, brother. Sorry to cut you off.
It's okay.
It's sad. It saddens me.
Yeah.
I when I see that, I say, oh my Lord, please help my kids, help these people, help.
Yeah.
I hope nobody goes into that predicament. It really does. We live in a rich country, beautiful people. I grew up when there was community life. People looked out for one another. So this saddens me when I see this. And we have to solve a problem. And police do have to be more proactive, and the media has to settle down a little bit because that's part of the problem. Why when a police officer takes one step forward, he probably takes 10 steps back because of all the media uh, hype that comes with that, right? So
Yeah.
uh,
I agree with you. We need to solve the homeless problem, and we want them to do better. We want them to have the resources that they need. It just seems that there is a conflict over what resources to provide them. Like you mentioned, the drug injection sites. Are the drug injection sites really helping? From what I've seen and what I've heard, that might be making the problem worse.
for many communities, I believe so. I was against it. I think that money should have went into treatment centers, preventing them, giving them, creating that environment because that's what they need at the end of the day.
Yeah.
After they get clean, they need ongoing care.
Yeah.
They need the right environment to be in. Because right when you leave that clinic, and even if you're clean, it's easily to fall back off the wagon. It really is. I've served a lot of time in drug court, and we saw a lot of people, come back after they become clean, and it's like, well, I'm not going to name any names, but so and so, what happened? And they'll tell you, sorry, boss, I fell off the wagon, unfortunately. And he's back into drugs. It takes that one time, the weather, the people that you meet. Hey, buddy, let's go out and do. And then before you know it, you're back hooked onto it again,
Okay, I see.
right?
Are there any statistics that are published that you're aware of that show what percentage of the homeless population is homeless? I mean, that is addicted to drugs, or has become addicted to drugs. Are there any statistics in that measure? In statistics showing how much is it related to they can't find work, they can't find a job, depression, loss of a job? Do those statistics exist for here in Edmonton?
Brother, I don't have that in front of me. It's a good question, but there are statistics, and you know what? All those that list that you just named, that falls to each and every individual that is homeless in today's world. They're suffering from poverty. Nobody wants to live outside.
Yeah.
Nobody does. I mean, especially in this cold weather. And these temporary fixed where they open up hotels and the city pays for them, or the agricom, uh, or the stadium, and people, they put out cots and stuff. That's a temporary thing during cold weather, but then they're back on the streets.
Yeah.
And I think you got to look at things like, fires in the city. How if people are outside and it's cold, how do they keep warm?
Yeah.
They start many fires, right? Which can also spread to houses and other businesses and buildings. And in the latest little while, nothing but fires. You can see the fire department is really, really busy.
Yeah.
They also have to feed themselves. So a lot of people are resorting to theft, unfortunately, and robbery and stuff like that. And they have to keep warm. So bus shelters doesn't do it sometimes. They have to they find some deserted house and break into it and, just to keep warm. It's like they're in survival mode, right?
Yeah.
So they do what they have to do.
Yeah.
But it's a problem for politicians, all three levels of government, to start taking care and paying attention to this, because it's a growing problem.
Yeah.
You know, instead of you'll hear that our federal government sends money abroad. They help every other country. We send millions of
Except
dollars to this
except
country,
except Canadian
millions of
citizens.
dollars to this country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I think it's time to start helping our own people here.
Maybe we should put a ban on all this foreign spending for maybe 5 years and spend all the money inside the country. That would really help. I know, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the local city government and the Alberta government are trying to work together to help deal with this issue. But is the federal government involved at all in helping to address this?
Well, I mean, I'm sure there, to some extent, everybody's involved. What I'm saying, it's going
Yeah.
to take more
Yeah.
involvement, and I think it should go to the top of the priority list for all levels of government, is what I'm trying to say, brother.
Yeah.
I know you want to get to the stats and the nitty gritty. Unfortunately, I'm not prepared to show you, well, this is happening and these
Yeah.
are the stats.
No
But
promise.
we can talk, and generally, I think everybody, a lot of people would agree that it is a problem that it's now time to address.
Agreed.
And instead of, it should go to the top of the list, of the priority list.
Yeah.
This is a priority right now. We have to take care of this problem. And I don't know, instead of sending, I don't know, 10 million to this country, maybe send 8 million, give a couple of million here to build a couple of houses and stuff like
Yeah. Ali, you mentioned that you're an Alberta sheriff. How long have you been in the profession?
that. Over 20 years, well, 22 years now.
Yeah. What is that line of work like? Can you tell us a little bit about your experiences?
The Alberta Sheriffs. I'm a proud member of the Alberta Sheriffs. The Alberta Sheriffs has been established and formed by many agencies, people from many agencies. For example, military police, RCMP, Edmonton Police, Calgary Police, probation. There's people from EMS. I don't want to miss anybody, but we've got so much skills and talent from various law enforcement agencies who built the Alberta Sheriffs and then what they are today. It saddens me because I am 110% for, and I ran on this on my platform for many times during the municipal election and the provincial election, a provincial police force. And at the municipal level, I ran at empowering more peace officers, give them more powers, right, to help out Edmonton Police. There's a lot of professionalism, and I think they just need the chance and opportunity to help fight crime. If they, and it comes down to the lawmakers to give them that, and they're not, and that's where the problem lies. Like in the past year or so, we've seen they've been increasing their powers more and more. As you saw, this provincial government recently giving powers for Alberta sheriffs to help patrol the downtown, Edmonton downtown and Calgary downtown, right? With Edmonton police. That should have happened a long time ago.
Because before, I assume at EPS had the authority to patrol Edmonton downtown. Alberta sheriffs, did they have that? They never had that ability in the past.
That wasn't part of our jurisdiction, brother. You see what we're trying. This is on a policeman's scale. A policeman gives tickets all the way to murder cases. Well, this part of the scale where there's B&Es, robberies, murders has grown dramatically in our province. So the idea of starting the Alberta sheriffs at this end of the scale is to relieve police officers and throw them on this end of the scale where the more serious crimes, and let them do more of the policing, while the Alberta sheriffs relieves them from duties like traffic. violations. And we did. I think it's been close to 18 years now. We started off with a six-man pilot project where we took over doing highway patrolling for only traffic violations. And in the last 18 years, brother, we've helped keep those highways safe, gain some revenue, and we've done a great job. When they first gave it to us, the RCMP lobbied against it. Oh no, these guys can't have it. They don't have the skills or the training, like they're doing now with the provincial policing. They did a very good public uh, publicity where they went out and people like the mayor of St. Albert helped them out and they changed public opinion by saying things like, "Do you know how much it is to start a provincial police force?" Well, it's
Yeah.
already started.
Yeah.
Like you got Alberta sheriffs, you've got peace officers, you've got fish and wildlife, so many people and bylaw officers. You've got people with lights and sirens and training that you can empower them to help out police forces, right? To do
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
and
It makes
fight crime.
sense.
We could clean up our city
Yeah.
without asking the taxpayers. We need more money to put more policing on the road.
Yeah.
You see, brother, there's one more point I'd like to also point out, and that is I've been there long enough to see. When I first got in there, I saw the old generation of policing and police officers, and their background was like grade at 12. Some of them had, some college, uh, and some of them had grade 11. I caught that generation, and there's still some that at the management level still sitting behind the desks collecting $200,000, $300,000. Don't want to see any change, too stubborn to make changes. But I've also fortunate enough to see the new generation getting into the law enforcement agencies, and they have PhDs, master degrees, undergraduate degrees, very well educated generation. It's time to eliminate some of this top heavy stuff, use that money, empower frontline workers, and let them service Albertans. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I,
I
I know I'm
totally know
talking
what
in
you mean.
general terms. Yeah.
Yeah, but it also reminds me of what's going on in the healthcare industry. Too many people at the top with the old thinking and old ways, don't really want to switch to the new ways, and I believe that's part of the problem in our healthcare system. But Ali, I wanted to say thank you very much for your service as an Alberta sheriff, and your service as a man in uniform. People may not know that you've also served in the military. I'm not sure if you mentioned that in the beginning, but thank you for your service, in the military, in the Canadian military. How long did you serve, and how was your role? What was your role?
Well, I made it to corporal, and I served for about 5 years. I
Can you
it,
explain
it
to us
goes.
what that is, like a corporal compared to a regular soldier? What the ranking?
Oh, corporal is like it's a rank system, right? But you start off as a trooper, and then you do a couple of courses more, and then you move up to second level, which is corporal. Third level would be master corporal, and so on, and sergeant. Then you move up that rank system. But I felt that it wasn't for me, but I would recommend it for my own kids and every other kid to join the military. I really believe in it. You see, for me, I was one of those kids that were Mr. Macho tough guys and stuff like that when I first started. So when I went in there, I remember that I ran into an incident, and there was a sergeant. He was a little bit shorter than me, and he looked at me and he gave me this look, and I said, What the hell are you looking at?"
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the master corporal and the sergeants and the warrant officer and captain, "Get on the floor, you do push-ups, get down there right now." And they started yelling at me, and I was pulled into the one of the officers back then. We're talking about 27 years ago, right? So I was pulled into the officer's office, and he explained to me, "Ali, it's not you're saluting the person or respecting the person. It's the rank." Now, I left that office, not still didn't understand what he was saying to me. So when I went to do my QL4, and that is to get your corporal level, part of it is you got to um, sleep outside for in the trenches for a couple of days. It was really cold. I think it was like 26 below or something like that. And I was saying to myself, what the hell am I doing here? And you'd be like they'd be simulating war, right? So uh, you'd be in like somewhat of a little bit of a combat, right? A playful combat. And then you would finish off by with a rucksack, about 50 pounds rucksack on your back, and you'd have to walk 13 kilometers or something like that. And you got to understand, like you're hallucinating. No sleep for a couple of days, no
Wow.
food. It's one of those, they really, really put you through a lot of training. And as I was completing that, I realized what he meant. I woke up to it. I said, wow, this is what the officer meant. That I deserve my respect because not many people can do that, can complete that level, right? And we did. I saw people fall out. They couldn't complete it. They had to take them in an ambulance. And yeah, when I got to the other side, and while doing that type of training, I realized what they meant by that. That the rank, you completed something that many people haven't completed, and you do deserve that respect. So it's a lesson learned for me.
Yeah. I've often heard that I've always been proud of the Canadian military ever since I was a young kid. I always used to go on the website of the Canadian military, see what the military is capable of. I always heard that the Canadian soldiers are amongst the best trained soldiers in the world, right? And I actually do feel that they deserve more support, and we should have, better resources, right? We're not as large as we were during the Second World War. You know what I mean? I believe we had, what was it, the fourth largest navy in the world at that time. For a country as big as Canada, maybe we need some more resources in the military. What would you say about that?
I agree. I couldn't agree more, brother. I mean, going back to federal government and priorities, you know, um, you know where this world is going. It's on the verge of a world war. You never know
And
when
that's
it's going to trigger,
scary. That is
you know.
scary.
And
Yeah.
and you know what? Which country is vulnerable right now? Ours.
Yeah.
You have to now protect the people of Canada, the resources of Canada. This is a country that you have to protect. And how do you do that? You gotta make sure your military has all the resources to protect us. And all these cutbacks on the military, and they don't, because they don't have the proper resources, unfortunately. So yeah, the federal government, I'll tell you, they have to look at their priorities. And I don't know who's running in the next election, but these are the questions I'm going to be asking my MP candidates. So
Yeah, well, I really hope we can get a conservative majority back in, and we can start supporting our military a little bit better. Ali, I wanted to ask you, what's your philosophical inspiration? What is it that motivated you to get heavily involved in politics? I know that politics is a passion of yours. What is it? What's your ultimate motivator to be in this industry?
well, I explained, like, as I started explaining, one of my reasons, and I would say primary reasons, is the way we're living. Like I was telling you at the beginning, when I compared the past to the present, I can foresee the future, right? If we stay on this path that we're on. And I have children. So I got involved in order to change the system, make life more easier for everybody. Because right now I can see stress in everybody's eyes. It's just, cost of living. We just finished off with the pandemic, the world issues that are going around. Um, you know, uh, the cost of living just keeps increasing. So many things that are going on that we have to restructure, like you just said, many of these departments when it comes to policing, when it comes to healthcare, and we were talked about federal government. Another thing that the federal government has to, uh, try to do is start to manufacture some consumer goods right here in our country. It's time we go back to that instead of relying on China and India and every
Made in
other,
Canada.
because it's not cheaper anymore. And you saw it during the pandemic, rush for the toilet paper. You remember that? I mean,
That was
oh,
That was ridiculous. And you know what? Honestly, I blame the media hype for a lot of that, because when I was in the stores, I would talk to the people that are working in the stores, and they told me, there's a few factories here in Alberta that produce the toilet paper and whatever. There really is no shortage, but the media was scaring people so much that people were running to the stores, buying up all the toilet paper, and that's why the stores started implementing you can take a maximum of one or two. But the media scared people. People went, they bought everything, and then there was a shortage because during the pandemic, Alberta's population didn't like double and triple. You know what I mean? It's roughly the same population over the 2 year period. There should logically be no shortage of toilet paper. You know what I mean? The population didn't grow. It's part of it is fear mongering, and then people got scared. They rushed to the stores and bought everything they can buy up because there is no logical reasoning. It's not like our population doubled and all of a sudden we have a shortage. You know what I mean? Too much demand and not enough supply. It just didn't make sense.
Brother, I think maybe the toilet paper was a bad example. I just want you to, if you can recall the children's Tylenol. There
Oh,
was a
I
time
remember
where,
that. Yeah.
okay, so there was nothing. There's nothing on the shelves,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I know you just had a child. Congratulations.
Thanks,
But for
brother.
people who have children and they were going through that illness and sick and hearing their
Yeah.
kids, crying,
Yeah.
and you'd go to the drugstore and there was absolutely no children's Tylenol
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
or Advil. So and I think you know the rest of the story where they had to go to Turkey and they bought a whole bunch
Yes,
and it
I
took
remember
time to
that.
get back here, and
Yeah.
I think it was $80 million or something like that.
Yeah.
But I would hate for that to happen. We went through a pandemic. Can you imagine during a world war what would happen? It would disrupt all sources,
Yeah.
of manufactured goods coming
Yeah.
into our
Not just Tylenol.
yeah, exactly.
Everything.
So right now, it's time that the federal government changes once again. Another priority. Let's start manufacturing our goods right here. Oil. It's not cheaper to get it from Saudi Arabia anymore.
Yeah.
Ontario and the other eastern provinces. Get it from Alberta.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. We need to do a
Let's
better job supporting Alberta's oil industry, but it seems the federal government's priorities right now don't seem to align with oil and gas production in Alberta. What's your take on that?
well, you know, I'm not going to blame one level of government. I think it takes all levels of government to cooperate and collaborate. But common sense has to prevail here. Like, once again, it's not cheaper. You know, John A. Macdonald, our first prime minister, he united our country through the project of the railway, and he went from province to province to sell this and promote it and convince and persuade other provinces to jump on board. Do you think it was one time that he did it? It took several and many times that he had to go back to the drawing table and go back with another offer and come back, and try to persuade them again. Our politicians have to sit on the table, and if it didn't work the first time, you keep trying and trying until we get everybody on board. How many times do you hear that Jason Kenney flew over to the United States, or Rachel Notley when she was premier?
Yeah.
During her time, she would be going over to the United States trying to beg Obama, please buy our oil, please get the XL
Yeah.
pipeline going, right? These are
Yeah.
things that they try to do. Well, maybe start right here.
Yeah.
Why other provinces are buying from other countries, Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, when we have oil right here,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So I
They
don't
should
know.
be buying Alberta oil.
Yeah. Well, and I'm telling you, it's not the 40s anymore, in the 1940s.
Yeah.
It was cheaper back then to get it from there, maybe,
Yeah.
but now things have changed, and I would revisit those numbers again, and I think you'll find that it'd be worthwhile buying from Alberta.
I remember taking a course like 15 years ago and being told that, there is the belief that Alberta itself has more oil than even in Saudi Arabia. It's just, a little bit more difficult to recover because of the oil sands. But apparently, we may have more oil than anywhere else.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, we have I don't know, supply of 500 years of it. So
Ali, you mentioned the media a while back. What's your opinion on the role of the media? Has the role of the mainstream media become more positive or more negative over the years, and how do we overcome that?
Well, I mean, media is supposed to be our source of information. The people rely on it. And, growing up, everything the media said, we believed right away, but now, with social media, uh, counter countering what mainstream media is saying and showing, other news and stuff like that. People are now doubting their media. And I can tell you personally, I recall just in this last election, I was invited to stand behind Danielle Smith as she was making a public safety announcement. And while standing behind her, and she was speaking, and she was saying, making that big announcement on how we're going to fight crime in the next 4 years. When they laid the media, that gave a chance for the media to ask questions, I go, here it goes. Okay, they're going to ask, are the Alberta sheriffs have their proper training? Where are you going to get the money from? I don't know. Come up with questions like that. Something to what she was saying. They didn't even ask one question.
I remember that. I watched that.
You did?
Yeah, I did
Okay,
watch
good.
that.
So you know what I'm trying to say,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like I was standing there like, okay,
Their
and they
questions had nothing to do with what you guys were talking
nothing
about.
to do with what we're there for. It was like a point. It was an advantage point for them to say, "Oh, you said this and this during your radio time, something about Nazis or something like that." I can't remember what was said back then, but uh, it had nothing to do with public safety.
Yeah.
Like really, so you're supposed to be our source of information. Now you're our source of misinformation. And don't kid yourself, brother. Honestly, they have a big influence on how people voted
Yeah.
and the results of the election.
Oh yeah, I'm fully
I
aware of
was
that.
I saw victims of media you saw me you were with me.
Yeah.
You knocked doors with me, right?
Yeah.
So we you heard it.
Yeah.
People were just reiterating what was
It was
said
all
on
media
media.
talking points. Every
It was
single
all
thing I
media
heard. Yeah.
talking points. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you'd say, "Oh, she's going to." They were talking about Daniel Smith. I'll never vote for you guys. You guys are going to privatize healthcare,
Yeah, that's what I heard too. Because and I never heard anything about privatizing healthcare or whatever, but I heard that as well.
brother. The point is, she's in power now.
Yeah.
Has she privatized it?
No.
Is she going? We'll see. We'll wait till the 4 years go.
Yeah.
Right. I had people phoning me saying, "Oh, she's going to cut our disability checks." Right. I go, "No. Who told you that?"
Yeah.
And that's how the NDP and the media were painting the conservatives. And this just didn't happen to Danielle's time. If you go back in the other election, the previous election, Jason Kenney, and do you remember during his time, the RCMP investigation? Oh, he's too corrupted. He's this, he's that. I'm not a fan of Jason Kenney. I'll be upfront. Like I don't like his politics, right? But he also had to go through that the media uh, misinformation too. So it just seems like they vilify whatever conservative leader comes into power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I lost faith in the media, probably I think it was about 22 years ago over the whole war in Iraq thing. That experience, what I saw, Iraq allegedly has, weapons of mass destruction and nuclear weapons and chemical weapons. And it's been over 20 years and there has not been a shred of evidence produced. I remember that very clearly. I was still in university. I think it was 2003. And at that point, I told myself, you can never trust anything that the media says. They outright completely lied about this war. How can you trust anything else that they talk about? Ali, since you you mentioned the recent race, you did run, as I mentioned in the beginning, to become an MLA. You were representing the United Conservative Party in the Edmonton Northwest riding. Would you like to go ahead and share some of your experiences? Specifically, why did the UCP fail? Because in Edmonton, they didn't win any seats. They won half of Calgary and they won the entirety of Alberta. So rural voters, vote UCP. But what is it about Edmonton and in general about the race? Feel free.
Well, there are many reasons why you don't win an election. But Edmonton in particular went NDP. Uh, you could say for reasons like fear. Fear played a big role. Fear mongering. Um, there also like media played a big role on Edmontonians. You know, the impact of fear and media both together, it has a great impact on how people act and how people vote. And for years and years, the NDP have been painting the conservatives as anti-women, anti-labor, anti-Muslim, anti-LGBTQ, anti, the list goes on and on. Black Lives Matter,
Anti-environment, anti-environment,
anti-environment,
right?
and we're seeing the effects of that now. You know, uh, listen, during the election, you turn on the TV and you would hear very biased reporting from the media. They would be every guest speaker that they bring on were bashing the conservatives, and you can tell by the two guest speakers that were supposed to give two perspectives. They were online with the same perspectives, and this person would say, "I agree with my friend," and the other person would say, "I'd agree with my friend," and they both agreed that the conservatives are no good. When you look at your phone, you'll find social media articles from Alberta Progress, Friends of Medicare, Alberta Politics, all Liberal and NDP propaganda. When you walk in your neighborhoods, for God's sakes, you'll see signs. Stop the cuts on education. Stop the cuts on healthcare. These union signs that you see on lawns. It
Yeah,
seems like
I remember
everywhere you
that.
go, it's all like conservative, anti-conservative propaganda. And unfortunately, we saw the results of that type of propaganda and in the last election, and people voted a certain way. So
Well,
I don't know. The solution to that is that we have to now come up with a good outreach program. We got to go back to these groups and these communities and these associations and start talking to them. You know,
agreed. I think the
you know,
UCP needs better and more public outreach program and even better public relations strategies as well.
yeah, brother. We got to go and meet with them, inform them, and also listen to them
Yeah.
both, and then take back that feedback back to the politicians and say, listen, this is what people are saying, and hopefully they can make future decisions to help communities become better and cater to their needs.
Ali, since we're talking about the media, what's your opinion about the CBC? Like there's an effort federally, I believe, by the Conservative Party to eliminate funding to the CBC, right? While the Liberals seem to want to continue to support the CBC. What's your viewpoint on CBC and public money going into it?
Well, public money, I'm okay with public money going into it, but with strong conditions that they got to change, restructure the way they report and strategy, strategize where they're just giving good facts. People want to hear the facts. I'm willing to pay more money in the media if they were to be doing the proper reporting. And just let me know what's going on in the world, like you just said,
Just be honest. Yeah.
be honest. Just give
Yeah.
me the facts. The Iraq War, like I'm Muslim, brother,
Yeah.
and I'm proud Muslim. And I'll tell you, as Muslim citizens in our country, we went through a really tough time. We still are. I don't blame the person who's mistreating us that way. I'm blaming media. They're just misinformed about us.
Yeah.
I remember when I was door knocking. Uh, this one I'll never forget. A nice lady came up to the door and said, "What are you going to do about the Muslims?" I said, "Muslims? Yeah, they're coming into our country, taking over our country." And I said, I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's a Muslim conspiracy to take over Canada. We're only maybe 1% of the population here. Like, where are you going? And then she was reading in my pamphlet and she saw my name, Ali, and she goes, "Hey, wait a minute, you're Muslim." And I go, "Yes, I am." She goes, "Oh, I'll never vote for you," and slammed the door in my face. So it was like, you know, I don't blame her. I blame the media and the stuff that she's been hearing, you know, from abroad, from all sources, from people that Muslims are this and this. She just doesn't know, but they got to stop that bad reporting. You
Yeah,
know, you
yeah,
know. I know you want to create controversy and you got to sell papers and stories and stuff like that, but don't fabricate it.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. We
tell the
do
truth.
need a more independent media, and I really hope, I actually hope the current UCP government will look into the role of the media, because like it seems like a lot of the media is very left of center, right? Left wing. They have a certain agenda, a certain priority. We do need more types of alternative media, and like you mentioned, what your social media has become a competition. I mean, Elon Musk recently bought Twitter, and now Twitter seems to be under attack as well, because it's allowing more and more viewpoints that are not considered mainstream. So I think that the role of the media in general needs to be looked at, because if you're not properly informed, and listen, the media shouldn't be telling people what to think. They should just, like you're saying, just give people the bare facts, give them the information, and our citizens are smart enough, with the proper information to make the proper decisions.
Oh, 100%. Brother, I've been watching Al Jazeera, Chinese media, BBC, alternative media sources.
Yeah,
And when I compare it to the Western type of media, it's big difference.
yeah,
Big difference. Even in the reporting style.
yeah,
I'm finding even the anchormen are just like over dramatic and oh my God, and uh, they're going through a war scene or whatever,
yeah.
and this is what's going to happen, and then
Especially here in the West.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you're Lebanese and I'm Lebanese, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
when we're watching the media, it's
yeah,
like, oh my God, Lebanon is gone. It's destroyed,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
During, it's been in what, 40, 50 years of war now.
yeah,
But when you talk to the people over there, it's like, no, we don't see a thing here. What's going on?
yeah, yeah.
Right?
No, man,
So
I'm
it
proud
is,
Lebanese, and Lebanon is resilient. I mean, it's unfortunate what Lebanon has had to endure over the years, but we do have a resilient country back in Lebanon, and people still go there at record pace. People are there all the time visiting from here. So I believe Lebanon is one of the highest countries in terms of remittances, in terms of money being sent back into Lebanon. People still, that are of Lebanese descent, still love that country, and we're
yeah,
resilient.
yeah, they are.
And we have a lot to contribute here in Canada. We're proud Canadian citizens. We run businesses, and we pay our taxes, and we get out there and we try to get involved in politics. I mean, hopefully Lebanese community can get a little bit more involved, but we are a
Oh,
resilient people.
they've definitely contributed in building Canada.
Yeah.
We've got lawyers now, teachers,
Lawyers,
doctors,
teachers, doctors, all of it.
policemen.
Yeah.
We've got in all industries, and we're part of the system now.
Yeah.
And so yeah, no, they've done their work well. And like you said, they still haven't forgotten. A lot of people go back to Lebanon and help out and
Yeah.
visit their hometown, home country, and so yeah, they're
Yeah.
very resilient. I would agree with you.
Ali, what how important is faith to you, and what role should faith and religion in general play in our political outlook? And I've always had the sense, I've always believed that when the Muslim community and the Christian community get together, and all the subgroups that fall within the Christian and Muslim community, I've always felt that when they get together, if they get together, and it seems like they're starting to work together closer as we move forward into the future, it seems like that will be better for our nation, and we can push our nation in a more positive direction. In your opinion, how important is faith in the political outlook of this nation? I mean, the Constitution in Canada does mention supremacy of God. It's directly written in the Constitution. And anybody who takes a citizenship test will know that, because it's mentioned in there. But it seems everything we do, we're kind of moving away from, a godly outlook. So please go ahead and share your point of view on that.
Well, I would say, faith is a very important factor for me, and I believe it should be in our system. In fact, I believe that, like you said, our Constitution is based on Judeo-Christian ethics. right? So the values and principles of that constitution falls back to religion and faith. And the founding fathers that came here, they yes, they came to explore for money and stuff like that, but they also built this country based on faith. They came to spread their faith. The schools that you see now, St. Basil's, St. Peter's, these are all, Misericordia Hospital, Grey Nuns, these are institutions that are built by Christian institutions that, back in the olden days, that believed in faith. Their actions were guided by faith. They were here to serve God. And we had the greatest country in the world. I believe so.
I remember Canada was rated #1 country by the UN for many, many years, and
Many
it's no
years.
longer on that list.
Yeah. So when the secular system came in and took over, that's when we started going down in those ratings. And I really believe that faith, and this is a Muslim talking, by the way. I'm a Muslim, and I'm proud of our Christian brothers and sisters who came here and built this country because they built it the right way. And I do think that all the monotheistic religions and the church, the churches, the mosques, the synagogues have a role to play in our society, like they did back in the olden days, right? And they should be working closely with government. Brother, even the American system, I truly believe that separation of powers that you see today within the American system is a concept that came from religion. God anointed kings and prophets. The king would not make a decision until he consults with the prophet,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, it's working together, right? And that's what makes a great nation. I do believe that there's I believe in science. I really do. And I think faith and science go hand in hand. God is the creator. People are inventors. He creates things, we invent things. So we take that creation and we invent it, right? But with climate change today, I do believe God controls the climate, and everything's in his hands. So um, I don't know. We have to change our ways in this world, and I don't think charging for plastic bags
Oh
is,
my God.
the
That
way that we're
recent
going.
city bylaw, the
Yeah.
feedback I've been getting from businesses is very negative. They don't want to do it. Like you go to a drive-through and they give you have to hold everything individually, you know? Businesses do not want to follow it in general. And I was reading something today where city council is going to be reviewing the effects of this bylaw, and it seems like it's ranging from neutral to negative. The entire philosophy of government, like why does a city government believe they have the right to tell a business, how much they should charge for a grocery bag? It's almost like it's something that would happen in a communist country. So, and I do agree what you're saying on the religious outlook. I wanted to ask you, because you did mention, I believe you mentioned climate change. What's your viewpoint on this current struggle over climate change and global warming? Because I'm an engineer, I remember many years ago we're looking at EPEGA used to send out these articles, in their newsletter. And this is probably over 10, 15 years ago. And it seemed like the engineers and the geoscientists and the geophysicists were split right down the middle as to how man-caused this global warming is and how much of it is natural. So it seemed like, within the science community, there was a lot of conflicting viewpoints. What's your view on that? Is it worth the resources we're putting into it? Because the federal government is trying to push, I believe, net zero by 2035. And the provincial government is pushing back, saying, give us at least until 2050, because, it's too difficult to sustain. Prices will be too high, especially right now with the carbon tax. What's your view on all of that?
Well, I'm agreeing with you. I think that what did we start off? They told us it was global warming, and then we changed over to climate change. I think science hasn't got it down packed yet. They don't know what is really, really going on in the world. Do we have our part to do in the world? Of course we do. I
Agreed.
mean, God tells us to, this is your world, you take care of it. Everybody has a duty to make sure to keep this environment clean, not for just for me and you, Sid, but for our children
Exactly.
and
For
our
the
children's
future.
children for the future. We have to
Hmm.
sustain the air, the water, everything. But you know, going back to the plastic bag thing, you can't help but to think it's a pollution tax, right?
Yeah.
In a funny way that they just want to collect taxes, right? I was at the store the other day, and you know, she goes, "Would you like to buy a plastic bag, or sorry, a bag? Would you like to pay for a bag?" She was asking me, and I'm looking at the items that I'm buying. They're all wrapped in bags. Honestly, I'm sorry, Sid, but that's what will happen.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
maybe through some more education, like try to
Yeah.
do it through education. People can change. Hey guys, better reporting, better facts. We have to try to do this. More encouragement. People can change. We don't always have to fine each other.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? They always finding ways to take money away.
Yeah.
Maybe give an alternative. Biodegradable bags.
Yeah.
Maybe at least give the stores that alternative. Maybe they can, this is what we'll use from now on
Yeah.
instead of charging, right? But
Yeah.
I don't think city council thought this out very well.
Yeah.
And from the people I'm talking to also are saying are very disappointed with that decision.
Yeah, and it's not just that. There's the whole idea of the 15-minute, neighborhoods, the $100 million bike lane. I mean, in my opinion, save that $100 million bike lane and spend some of it to help the homeless population out. You know what I mean? Spend $20 million on bike lanes in new neighborhoods, and leave the old neighborhoods alone because they were not built to withstand bike lanes, and spend some of the money saved on the homeless population. I mean, I believe there's a lot of questions that have popped up about the current city council.
Yeah,
Um,
brother. The once again going back to media and leadership. Mike Nickel ran against Mayor Sohi,
yeah,
and they vilified it. Media, put him down. They vilified him. He was up in the polls at one time,
I
and then
remember
he
that.
lost. And he there's a lot of things that we wanted to change, and I ran part of his team, and the things that we wanted to reduce crime. You know, we like look at crime in today's world. I think a simple change, if we can go, like you'll find policing today. Like, so for example, let's just talk about photo radar for a sec here. Also another cash grab, in
Yeah,
my opinion,
agreed.
right?
Yeah,
Uh, and they had to get a consulting company and paid millions of dollars just to tell them, yes, it is a cash grab,
what
and
a
you got to
wow.
paint the cars yellow, you have to have an antenna and all that other stuff. So they made some changes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, but you know what would be more effective than that photo radar, that truck placed in the middle? A police car, a marked
Actual police
police car.
officers. Yeah,
No, a parked police car.
parked police car.
And it doesn't have to be manned.
Yeah,
It doesn't.
yeah, yeah,
I'm telling you, psychologically, if you
yeah.
that
It's a
parked police
psychological
car,
effect.
you put it there, and people are driving by and they see that police, automatically they're double checking their speed, they're making sure their seatbelts on right, and all the way to their destination. Not just, it's just a wake up call. It triggers something, and no, I got to drive more safely. It reminds us, right? A photo radar truck, once we pass it, we continue speeding. It
Yeah,
doesn't do the job.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So, police presence, like you said, is a deterrence. Brother, I remember talking to a junior high student in grade 12. No, sorry, a high school student in grade 12. And he was waiting at the bus stop. He told me the story. This was while door knocking. I met this individual, and he was telling me how important police presence is. He was waiting at the bus stop, and three guys from his school were approaching him, calling him on, saying, "Hey, we're going to fight. Let's fight." And one of them was pulling something out of their pocket. Suddenly, coming around the corner was a marked police car. All of a sudden, those three individuals, shifted their direction and started walking the other way.
Yeah.
And lucky for that student, he said, the bus was coming. I got on the bus and I was gone. He told me, I believe that police car saved me from, having to fight those guys.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I
an
mean,
incredible story.
yeah, like it's police presence goes a long way. Now they're all in these unmarked cars. You
Yeah.
don't find police in marked cars anymore. Let's go back to the old style of policing.
I'm a big advocate of, and I've been advocating for a few years now that we should have presence of police cruisers, police vehicles in neighborhoods more often, just doing, the regular patrols and
Yeah.
in all the neighborhoods in Edmonton, like 2 times a day, patrols driving around the neighborhood. That would, like, me as a
It
member of
would
the
reduce
public
crime
seeing that, it
significantly.
would
It
reduce
would.
crimes, but it would also make a lot of people feel more comfortable. And we
We'd
need to
feel
get away
safe.
from this media idea that the police are somehow evil or something. Yeah, you know what? You'll have a few bad police officers, but the majority of the police officers are truly here to serve the public. And when I see a police cruiser driving by in my neighborhood, it makes me feel comfortable. You know what I mean? And it is going to deter crime. Maybe it'll even reduce some of these Cadillac thefts that are taking place. But this is what we need. We're raising children here, and I've always believed it's our duty to leave this world in a better place for our children than our ancestors left it for us, or than our parents left it for us. So yes, we do need the role of policing to increase.
Yeah, no, it's crime is a big issue, and I think it's bigger than just for the people that are living here uh, in Edmonton. It's people who are visiting Edmonton don't want to come to Edmonton.
Yeah.
So in our funny way, look at the, we try to build our downtown area. We put millions and millions and millions of dollars in fixing the downtown area and hopes that people would be attracted to come to our city, while at the same time the crime is deterring people to come.
Yeah.
I remember I was talking to a cousin and he's in Ottawa, and he says, "Are you guys okay there in Edmonton?" I go, "Why? Yeah, we're doing great." And he goes, "I don't know. This media is just reporting that every day a killing or a stabbing or and
Wow. Edmonton. Wow.
it's got that reputation.
Yeah.
We got to change that.
Yeah.
Not only for the inhabitants that are here now, we got to make it safe for them, but for other reasons, economical reasons, and increase our tourists and attract people to come to Edmonton and invest in Edmonton. We
Yeah.
got to change that reputation.
I truly believe that Edmonton is one of the most beautiful cities in North America. It's actually also one of the largest cities in North America. We have everything here in Edmonton. The weather can get very cold, but we also have great summer weather. Like Edmonton all around is a wonderful city to be in, and we need to do a better job and even bringing back the slogan, the city of champions. Ali, one of the final questions I have for you is, what do you think is going to happen in the next federal election? Who's going to win?
I don't know, but I could tell you who I hope wins. And I hope it's going to be a conservative majority. I really do. I hope that it's going to be elections. Brother, I've been in so many elections now. It's hard to predict who will win. It really is. We're talking about, I'll give you an example. We're talking about plastic bags. And we're still, 2 years away from an election? If there was an election today, I don't think, this current administration would win. But unfortunately, people forget and they get used to it. And with everything that's happening and Trudeau's doing right now, and his ratings in the polls, that can change tomorrow. So really, you can't predict how people will vote. We saw during the 30-day span, there was times where we were thinking, "Oh, we're winning this. We got this. This is easy. This is ours." And then all of a sudden, the next day, you're knocking on doors again, and it's like you're all depressed because of what people told you on the doorsteps. And it takes 3 seconds on the TV. If you say one wrong thing, that changes the whole way, how people vote, right? So um, it will shift the way that they were going to vote one way, and then something goes wrong, or media reports something that the conservatives say. All of a sudden, they're not voting. So, and we saw that during this last election.
There's one thing I forgot to mention that I wanted to mention, in that I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but there is an effort city council is looking at it to change the designation of the river valley from being run by the local city to becoming a national park, being run by the government of Canada. And that has me worried. I'd rather have it under local jurisdiction and control. I'm not sure if you've heard about that, but it appears there's an effort now to turn the river valley into like something like Banff National Park, where it's under federal control. I'm not a fan of that. I want it to stay under local control. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, brother. Listen, sir, brother, I'll tell you, you, when I went to Banff recently, I was walking the streets. Every store you go to or every service, you'll find they're all foreign workers. And I would ask why.
That is right. A lot of people from Australia actually come and work in
Well, not
Banff,
only
and I was
Australia,
shocked.
British,
Yeah,
from all over the world,
yeah.
and how much money is it making? Why would you want to give this beautiful economic development that you could have in your own control right here in our own city that can gain a lot of revenue? Why would you give it to the federal government?
That's something
I
people
don't
need to be
get
made
it.
aware of. Yeah,
You can make that river valley beautiful.
yeah,
You can come up with a good vision for that river valley, and I'll bet you'll have people all over the world wanting to invest
yeah.
in Edmonton, would want to invest. You know,
Yeah.
why would you go give it to the federal government? Why not take that money for our own city, for our own, we wouldn't even have to pay taxes anymore, property taxes, if we gain enough revenue,
Yeah.
right? But unfortunately, they don't, this the politicians in today's world, they just say, oh, no, we can't, government can't run things. That's their attitude. Well, I think they're just incompetent to me. You just want to pawn it off and give it to somebody else. Why would you want to do that?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I don't know. I mean, that's my opinion. I
Yeah.
really think that we're sitting on a gold mine. We just don't know how to use it, and we're giving it to somebody else.
The river valley is one of the most beautiful areas I've ever seen. I actually, in my entire life, I have never walked the river valley until about 3 years ago. And I did that walk, forgot how many kilometers it was, but it was the most beautiful walk I have ever been on.
Brother,
So,
picture
I
this,
mean, we can do
fishermen.
so much with it.
Well, sure. You put ice cream parlors, you put beautiful sittings, restaurants, stuff like that. People can walk. It'll be a main place to go,
Yeah.
just to sit down and watch the river valley,
Yeah.
like overlooking the
Overlooking
river
just
valley.
watching the river valley is
You know,
beautiful.
one of the things I love going to McDonald Hotel for is that they have that balcony, on the outside balcony where they have that, and you could sit there and sip on your favorite drink and just sit there and look at God's creation. You just sit there and mesmerized by the beauty of things. It's hard to describe, but I think you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I totally know
It's
what you
just
mean.
beautiful, beautiful. And like you said, it took you 3 years ago. How long have you lived in Edmonton?
My whole
Just to
life.
go, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And I
and
love it.
I'm gonna guess that there was nothing that took you down there. If you put something like uh, business or something that that would take you downtown, and I think more people would go to the downtown
Yeah.
area, make use of that river valley.
I've always wanted to do the River Valley walk. I just never had an real opportunity, and I finally went and did it, and it was one of the most beautiful walks I've ever done in my life. And I think we should do everything in our power to prevent the federal government from taking it over. Now, Ali, I really appreciate your passion. We're coming up to the end of the episode, and this is the hardest question. Are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you have fun?
While what do you mean today?
Did you have fun during this podcast?
Oh, of course I did. You know me, I'm a political junkie. I love talking politics, right? So, I mean, hearing other people's perspectives, also sharing my experiences and my perspective, I love it. So, yeah, I mean, when you gave me the opportunity to come on this podcast, I jumped at it. It was a privilege, trust me, and I was honored. But I'm a nobody. I've lost every election I went through, but at the same time, I do love politics, and if I can run forever, trust me, I would. I just love door knocking. I
I know
love
in your
talking
heart
to
you want to
people.
make the change. I know you have a good heart
The right
and you
changes.
really
The
want to
right
make the right
changes. Yeah.
changes.
Yeah.
And Ali, you are a somebody. Like you're very passionate about this.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
And I also, it's a privilege to have you join me for this episode. Is there anything else that we left out? Anything else that you wanted to share?
No, all I can say, I'll end it with this. I just hope more people get more involved in politics and vote. Honestly, I really do. When you see the turnout, voting turnout, you just shake your head and say, why? And also on the doorstep, I heard it too many times. People saying to me, "You're all the same. I'm not voting. Go."
I
They've
remember
lost
that.
faith. They lost faith in the
Yeah.
system. I just hope to God there's a way we can restore that faith by being more honest, being who we are, and allowing us to be who we are. Like in today's world, politicians are walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
Honestly, everybody's
Agreed.
recording you, and what do you mean by that? And everything's got a meaning. You're not allowed to express your full
Yeah.
opinion on things anymore,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They've silenced us.
Yeah.
It's like you can't talk about this issue or this issue because this person gets offended or this person gets offended.
Yeah.
Just because you got offended doesn't mean you're right.
Yeah.
Like I don't, we got to go back and be honest with ourselves and be honest to the voters. Because at the end of the day, you got to look yourself in the mirror and you got to face those people. So I just hope, both politicians can change a little bit and, voters would get out and vote more.
Wonderful, Ali. That was awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you very
no,
much for being part of this, Ali.
thank you for having me.
Okay, man. Take care, man.
Take care. You too.
Bye bye.
God bless you. Bye
But
bye.
God bless you too. Bye bye.